My name is Noah Lay, and this is the first episode of Lay of the Land. Just a chance for me to really give my ideas and talk about what I believe in. And so, let's jump right into it. Really wanted to introduce myself and my upbringing as a start to this first official episode. And I grew up in the upstate of South Carolina. The rural upstate of South Carolina. If you know South Carolina, it's mainly rural, so that should come as no surprise to you. But grew up in a very hardcore Republican family, very Southern traditional, Southern Baptist type of family. Really didn't grow up around a lot of different ideas. Really just one way of thinking, and that was, whatever the Republicans were thinking. So my parents, when I was younger, were definitely for the Iraq War. They're for the Iran war with Iran right now. So that's kind of what they are, their belief systems. The same with my grandparents, and I'm sure it was the same with, their grandparents. So throughout middle school, I really got into politics and was obsessed with Donald Trump. I don't know, there was something about him being a businessman running for president, and the things he was saying, I really appreciated it, even though I was so young. So I even actually had a presentation on him in 7th grade on why he was going to beat Hillary Clinton and win the presidency. So it's funny to look back on that now. But he's changed a lot since then. I saw a clip the other day, and he was telling Jeb Bush, your brother should have never we should have never been in a war with Iraq. That was for oil. And that's the Trump that we need, and that's the Trump that I miss. So, because, with the war with Iran, it's for Israel, and that's pretty easy to see. But one of the first things I was really wanting to get into as I was introducing myself was wanted to speak on the topic of consumerism. And I feel like this isn't covered by big news outlets enough because they're the ones feeding into this consumerism, late capitalistic society. So I wanted to touch on a few things. And really, let's just start with a bird's eye view of how billionaires would want you to go through your day, okay? They want you to go through your day as if you're cattle, so let me walk you through it. So you wake up in the morning right before work. You don't get up and have a good routine beforehand. You don't go work out. You get up as late as possibly before you get to work, and you get up, you make you a bowl full of cereal with soy milk. Sugary cereal with soy milk, lots of dyes, lots of preservatives, just like eating trash before you go into work. And then, on your way to work, you listen to some rap music that talks about sexually exploiting yourself and, killing people. And so that's normal to you, and that's it gets you acquainted to that sort of lifestyle. That's how they want you to live. They want you to be in prison. So anywho, once you get to work, you in between your, filling out mindless Excel sheets, you watch short form content on YouTube just to get your quick dopamine hits throughout the day. Same with Facebook. Every social media outlet now has short form content. So you do that throughout the day. You take your lunch break. You go to somewhere like, McDonald's that's right across the street. And, they own so much land and there's so many McDonald's. They're everywhere. And I think, now a meal's $10. So you go spend $10 and you eat more trash. You feel horrible after you eat because it doesn't actually fill you up. It makes you feel worse than if you would have just skipped a meal. And I'm preaching to the choir here. I work a 9-to-5 job. I don't eat fast food anymore, but I used to. And so now I can realize that was a mistake. And so after you eat your lunch, you go back to work. You talk with the people at work. You get whatever they say is productive. You do whatever that is. It's probably does nothing for society. At least that's how I feel in my job. And as soon as you get done, you go home. You drive home. You don't go work out. You don't exercise. You don't go outside. You go straight in your room. Okay. And you make dinner first. Sure, you make dinner. You eat some ramen or something that you can just microwave in, a plastic bowl, and kill your testosterone. So, And then after you do that, you go lay down in bed, turn off all the lights, get no sun, nothing like that after work, after being in a closed space all day, you go to another closed space. And you pick out a show, you scroll through, you see everything's just a remake of something or a trilogy or a fourth or fifth or sixth movie of the same movie with different actors or with the same actors. They bring in the old actors, and then they use the new actors for the same roles that the old actors did. But then you come across a show called Love Island. And pretty much, we all know the show. It's just teaching young people to whore out and to drink and party and sleep around and video it and post it for everyone to see. So that then you go to then you don't go to bed yet. Correct me. Sorry. You get on TikTok and scroll for a few hours, and then you make it into bed by 2 a.m. So that's what these billionaires want you to do. That's pretty much a day in the life for cattle, as they would like to call you. They want to call you cattle. That's what they think you are. You are just a number to these people, okay? You are just a ticket. You are just a $100 bill. It doesn't matter if you're poor, you're rich, you're middle class. Well, you're not rich, they're rich. But you're poor, you're middle class. It really doesn't matter. Let me give you an example of this consumerism I'm talking about. So in the book, New World Order, it talks about this. It's a great book, but they condition you at a very young age to really, really be into stuff, to things, to the new thing, to the new trends. So let me give you an example. So obviously the tumblers, the Stanley tumblers, that is a really good example because I was walking through Walmart the other day and there was a baby toy that was a Stanley Cup baby toy that you pretend to drink on. That is the craziest thing I've ever seen recently. Well, not ever, but it's one of the craziest things I've seen recently. And there was even a dog toy that was a Stanley Cup. And I feel like, capitalism does breed innovation to a certain extent, but now we're just putting out junk. It's just junk, and it's just so you can spend more money. And obviously, these things were not made well. These toys were not made well because they're only supposed to last a few months. And that's just the cycle that these people want you to be in. It's the same thing with clothing. I deal in vintage clothing. It's a lot better quality than the clothing that's pushed out nowadays. Shein, for example, huge player in this game. All these women, getting their Shein haul in, ordering it. Statistically speaking, after 6 months, those are going to end up in a thrift store. And, these people think they're doing good things by donating these Shein outfits to these thrift stores. But in reality, since it was such a micro trend, these things get thrown away into a landfill. And so it's really not good for the environment to even invest in these things because it's child labor making these products. And that goes with a lot of things. So that's what I see in everyday life is consumerism. That's how I view things. Like today I was in Walmart again, and there was a collab of Cheetos, and it was dill pickle. Just all these collaborations. It's really just to get you to buy something else that doesn't taste that good and that is horrible for you, that they put so many preservatives in. So, and people ask me, what's a way to combat this? My girlfriend, she says, I'm nihilistic, but there is a way to combat this, and that is to consume less. That is what you need to do. And how do you do that? You ask me, how do you do that, Noah? It is hard because we're all bred to want more and more and more and more, and that's part of our sinful nature. And society has fed that into us. And so this is how you consume less, okay? You drive an old vehicle, okay? You drive it till the wheels fall off of it. You drive it till you can't drive it anymore, okay? And that a good vehicle will last you a very long time, okay? And you don't eat out every day for lunch on your lunch break. You bring a sandwich, you make lunch beforehand, you meal prep. This is the way you save money and you consume less and you eat better. And with Instagram, TikTok, all the short form content, you consume less of that content, and that is hard to do because short form content. We'll get on this later, but it's a machine in itself. Ever learning your thoughts and what you like. So it is very addictive, more addictive than some of these opioids that are killing people daily. So you consume less of that. You try to consume books and longer form content videos where you can really learn valuable information. Those are a few things. And then really just getting out and getting some sun, touching grass, as some would say. This is another way to do that. And it is hard, especially when you work a job all day long and you feel like you've been beaten up at that job. And when you really just want to get home and lay down and not talk to anyone. But that's something you have to fight, because that's what these billionaires want to do. They want to beat you down, and they want to make sure you can't revolt against the system and against the matrix that they're trying to put you into, because this is all just a phase one of the operation. They're eventually going to want to put us in some sort of tanks that are almost VR-like, so everything is a virtual reality. That is just a bigger idea that we'll touch later, but wanted to go ahead and implant that idea to you guys. You can tell me what you think. But so that's a way to really fight against consumerism. And I wanted to go back and touch on short form content in general, specifically Instagram Reels and TikTok videos. So with these programs, it's actually really, really scary, because it is specifically designed to keep you on the app as long as possible. That is why it's so easy for when you turn on screen time, you can just click right off of it, because these people don't want you to have a screen time. They want you to be on your phones as much as humanly possible. And so with the algorithm, like I said earlier, is really a machine learning, and it's learning what you love. It's learning what you like. It's learning what you comment on. Everything you do is tracked, and it's put back into the machine. And the machine knows exactly who you are. The machine knows where you live, and the machine knows what's going to make you happy and maybe a little horny. So especially when it comes to guys, that's why there's porn injected into everything, because they want you to be addicted to everything, and they want you to consume everything. So with the Reels, like I said, even videos that you just comment that you hate watch, but you like a comment on, that's automatically going back into the algorithm. So it's going to show you more of the things that you hate. So it fills your mind with hate, and it makes you have a horrible day, because these billionaires want you to have a horrible day. They want you to hate your life. They want you to feel defeated, so you can't revolt against the system, and cannot find financial freedom. And financial freedom is a hard thing to find. I'm struggling with that now, but it's a consistent grind and prioritizing, taking down the billionaires, because in reality, when it comes to the billionaires that I keep talking about, people don't understand that it's really not right versus left, and it never has been. And this is something that's came clear to me in the past couple years. I used to think it was right versus left. All the Democrats, they're pedophiles. No, they're both pedophiles. It's both, okay? And that's getting clearer and clearer. The billionaires, they fund both sides of the party. Foreign nations fund both sides of the party. Big Pharma funds both sides of the party. Israel being one of those foreign nations that fund both sides. And that's why both sides are for this war. Both sides are for this war, with a select few. Really happy with what Thomas Massie is doing. Go Thomas Massie. And they're also not. Both sides are keeping quiet about the Epstein files. There are some in the Democratic Party, I will give it to them, that are really trying to hammer on the Epstein files, and there are some in the Republican Party. Both, like I said, Thomas Massie and Nancy Mace has really been trying to get some justice and seek justice for some of those survivors, because they are survivors, not victims. And so reeling back into the central idea, right versus left is no longer, and it never was. It's two sides of the same coin. The billionaires and the people who run society, the background people that run society, because obviously it's not the presidents who run society. It's their funders and the Rothschilds, the big banks, all those names you hear of all the time. Those are the people that run behind the scenes, run our country and run the world, because it is really behind the scenes. That's where you acquire most power, is behind the scenes, being people in behind the people that are putting themselves out there, because that's a liability. And so these sides, like I said, are both funded by the same people, but they also argue about these small little things because they want to keep us divided. They don't want me and you to have a civil conversation about why we shouldn't have a war. They don't want us having a civil conversation about, let's say, just about the Epstein files, because I'm sure we would agree that's a horrible thing, but they don't want us talking about that. They want us talking about if weed should be illegal, okay? I don't think that's one of the biggest problems in America. I think a big problem in America is pedophiles run the country, obviously, and there's lots of homeless people, but there's lots of homeless people and lots of fraud going on everywhere throughout the country. But like I said, the government doesn't want you to focus on those big issues. They want you to focus on the minuscule issues that they know will keep the people divided. And same goes with AI. Both sides are funded by big AI, big tech companies. And I feel like this is a turning point for world history, because they really are honing in on us becoming a police state. Palantir has so much government funding. There's so many that I don't even know the names of that have much government funding. Billions and billions of dollars invested into self-learning AI, which is a very scary thing. It reminds me of 2001 Space Odyssey. But it's the same thing we were talking about earlier with the algorithm. These AIs are self-learning and self-improving enough to where these billionaires and these people funding these projects are going to be able to critique the future and change the future as it's happening, because we rely so heavily on ChatGPT and these AIs to decide our every movement of the day. We ask it, where should we go to eat? We ask it, is this right? We ask, how does this email sound? How does this text sound? How does this breakup? Everything we ask it, we're going to rely more heavily and heavily and heavily. They used to say Google it. Now they say ask chat. So it's just a evolution that's I'm really not wanting to see play out. So I hope that we can get away from this AI, but apparently it's the future. It's in everything. It's in marketing. It's in it's on Instagram. It's the Google search now is AI, which they've had the technology for years, but they've been really trying to up it recently. But all that being said is I just really wanted to introduce a few of my ideas on this first episode, just to give you a taste of the lay of the land, if you will, from my perspective. But like I said, I'm always learning and always wanting to learn more, and I feel like that's really how you beat the matrix and how you don't bend your knee to these billionaires, is, like I said, really just consuming less and learning more. So I really appreciate you guys listening to my first episode, and I look forward to speaking again next week. So thank you.